what's going on, guys? David and I are back with a video, and after 2 long weeks, I think it's time we talk about the Galaxy S8 Plus, which is one of the most anticipated smartphones of 2017. Now, I know some people are all about the specs, so let's get the performance specs out of the way first. Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus both come with a Snapdragon 835 chip, 4 gigs of RAM, and an Adreno 540 GPU. But the first thing you notice as soon as you start interacting with the phone is that screen. It's got a 6.2-inch Super AMOLED touch panel with a ridiculous 84% screen-to-body ratio. And it also comes with 1440 by 2960, which equates to about 529 pixels per inch. Now, something I really liked about the display on this phone is it's got 3 different screen resolution settings: HD+, Full HD+, and WQHD+. Now, when you first get your phone, it's going to be set to Full HD+, so if you want to change it, make sure you go into your settings and crank it all the way up to WQHD+, so you get that full, crispy resolution. Some other cool things about the display: it's got Gorilla Glass 5, so you have pretty good protection. It's got a pressure-sensitive home button, which I thought was pretty cool, and it still comes with always-on display, so you can get your time and notifications at a glance without having to turn on your device. And you've got metal that runs all around the frame of the phone. Now, on the top, you have a hybrid SIM tray, where you can have 2 SIMs, or you can have 1 SIM and a micro SD. On the bottom of the phone, you have USB-C, a headphone jack, thank you Samsung, and a mono speaker. Now, the real thing about the sides of the phone is the dedicated Bixby button on the left side, which, if I'm being completely honest, I have remapped. So while we're on the topic of the Bixby button, let's talk about Bixby itself. So a while ago, whenever Android manufacturers would make their own Android phones, they would make a lot of versions of their own applications that Google would already make, like a dedicated email application or a dedicated notes application. But as Android started to mature and become a much better software, a lot of these OEMs realized, hey, let's just use Google's application. Let's not make a second application to make it more confusing on our consumers. Samsung is not taking this approach, I guess, because they still have their own versions of Android applications, but now they have their own version of a virtual assistant in Bixby. And I'm not trying to say Bixby is bad, but I'm already so used to the Google Assistant that I really have no use for Bixby. And a lot of the stuff that Bixby can do, other than the fact that it's integrated into the camera, so if you point your camera at something, Bixby will try and tell you what it is or help you shop for that item. I just don't have a use for Bixby. So to be completely honest with you guys, I have no experience with Bixby whatsoever. Like I said, I remapped it. I'm not trying to say it's bad. I'm sure some people out there use Bixby, but personally, Bixby was not for me. So on the back of the phone, you also have Gorilla Glass 5, or at least that's what Samsung is saying is on the back of the phone. I haven't dropped mine to test it. I don't recommend you drop yours to test it because I heard it does shatter pretty easily. You also have your camera with flash, which is pretty standard. You have a heart rate monitor underneath the flash, which I think is pretty cool. And you have your incredibly controversial fingerprint scanner. So let's talk about the fingerprint scanner. So a couple years ago, some Android manufacturers decided to take the physical home button on the front and move it to the back of the phone. Now, Samsung has kept with front-facing fingerprint scanners all the way up to their Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge Plus, whatever the bigger model of the S7 was. I didn't own it. This year, they did things a little differently, and they moved it right next to the camera on the back of the phone. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen almost every other phone reviewer's channel out there complaining about the location of the fingerprint scanner. Me personally, I got used to it after about a week, and compared to the other security features they have, like facial recognition or the iris scanner, I still find the fingerprint scanner much more convenient to use. So I got used to it, and if you throw a case on the phone or if you throw a skin on the phone, it's much easier to locate the fingerprint sensor as opposed to touching your camera lens. But without those things, I was touching the crap out of my camera. And Samsung knows you will do this too. Every now and then, whenever you open up your camera, it'll let you know that to take the best quality photos, you should definitely wipe all smudges away from your camera. So yeah, I think Samsung themselves even know that they put the fingerprint scanner in a bad location. But like I said, after about a week or so, you get used to it and it's not really that big of a deal. One other cool feature about the fingerprint sensor that I really liked, it's got swipe gestures, so you can actually swipe down on the fingerprint sensor to bring down your notifications panel, kind of like on the Pixel XL. Now, once you do manage to wipe the fingerprint smudges off of your camera lens, you're capable of taking some amazing photos. Now, typically, when Samsung releases a new flagship, their camera is much more improved compared to last year's flagship. This isn't necessarily the case with the S8 Plus. Now, it is better than the S7, I'll give it that, but it's not the best smartphone camera on the market. I still prefer the Pixel XL in a lot of situations over the Galaxy S8 Plus. But like I said, you're still capable of taking some amazing shots. It's got a 12 megapixel camera with f1.7 aperture. And like I said, amazing shots. Don't take my word for it, take a look at some of these photos. So the primary camera is one thing, but Samsung really stepped it up in terms of the selfie camera on this phone. It's an 8 megapixel shooter, but let's say you're not a huge fan of Snapchat or just wanting to have Snapchat on your phone, Samsung's got you covered with a lot of cool effects. You can do things like turning yourself into a flying dog or turning yourself into a skier or some sort of person who reads books really fast. I mean, you guys see it. We're going to put it on video for you, but you can also add words and stuff in the background. Yeah, this selfie camera is unlike any other selfie camera I've seen on a cell phone, and it's really cool. I really hope other Android manufacturers kind of start following suit with this, although it is kind of corny, but I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty funny. So let's talk about arguably two of the most important factors whenever you're using a smartphone: the software and the battery life. Let's start with software. So the Galaxy S8 and the S8 Plus come with Android 7.0 right out of the box. And I don't think they're calling it TouchWiz anymore, they're actually calling it Samsung Experience. And the particular Samsung Experience on this phone is version 8.1. Now, I feel like this is being really repetitive, but every time Samsung brings out a new smartphone, the software on it is better than last year's. But in my opinion, that should be kind of your job as a phone manufacturer, to improve upon last year's device in terms of both hardware and software. So I'm not necessarily going to give them too much credit for that, because I feel like they should be improving the software regardless. Now, it's good, it's better than previous versions of TouchWiz or Samsung Experience, but if you guys know me well, you know that I much prefer stock Android and super quick updates straight from Google. So in terms of software, the Pixel XL is still my preferred Android phone. Now with all that said, Samsung's version of Android does come with some pretty cool features. One of them we actually touched on earlier, which was the always-on display. That is one of my favorite things that comes with the Galaxy S or Galaxy Note line of phones. Another one of my favorite new features, or cool features I guess, is the edge screen. So the edge screen is a panel that you can place on either the left or right side of your screen, and in order to access it, you put your finger on the panel and swipe inwards towards the middle of the screen. Now I have my edge screen set up pretty simple. I start off with Smart Select, which enables you to take parts of your screen as a screenshot, or even create GIFs whenever you're watching a video. GIFs. I have a People's Edge, which allows me to call or text some of my favorite contacts. I have a device maintenance page, which allows me to optimize my device's memory, storage, and performance, and even battery life. And I also have it set to show me scores from my favorite sports teams. Now your options don't stop there. You can also have an Apps Edge for your favorite applications, reminders, tasks, weather, quick tools, calendar, news, support. And if that's not enough for you, you can even download more Edge panels from the Samsung store. So yeah, the Edge panel is something that not a lot of people will probably use, or a lot of people might actually use, and it's pretty convenient. I found myself using this quite a bit while I was using my S8 Plus. And one of my other favorite things that comes on the S8 Plus is the ability to change your device's themes. And I'm not just talking about wallpapers or things like that. I'm talking about actually changing the way your quick settings tiles looks and your settings application, and it even extends further than that. Now, when I first got my S8 Plus, I noticed that it was super bright. The quick setting tiles were all white, and the icons were these super bright blue colors, and it was really hard on the eyes. So I went into the theme store and I found myself a pixel theme, and I applied it, and I think it makes the device look a lot sharper. And something I realized was the theme extends into a lot of Samsung's default applications, like the dialer and the messaging app. So you kind of get this sense of a uniform software experience all around, even though you just applied a theme. That I think is really cool. So yeah, the battery life. Now the S8 comes with a 3000 milliamp hour battery, and the S8 Plus comes with a 3500 milliamp hour battery. Now part of the reason why I always prefer bigger phones doesn't just come down to the fact that it has a bigger screen, but it also comes down to the fact that it has a bigger battery. Especially when it comes to Android, I will always take a bigger battery and the bigger screen size regardless of how big the phone is. That being said, the S8 Plus will get you through a full day's worth of usage. I regularly found myself getting about 4.5 hours to 5 hours of screen on time, and that was set at the Full HD Plus resolution. You will notice kind of a hit in battery life if you crank up the display to its maximum resolution, and if you're someone who likes to keep your brightness all the way up, but nonetheless, you should be able to get through a full day. And when you need to top off, Samsung has a fast charger in the box, and if you have a wireless charger, they also have fast wireless charging, so that's pretty cool. But one of the things I really liked about the battery was the fact that you have custom battery profiles, and what I mean by that is battery saving profiles. Samsung's got two, a mid-range battery saving profile and a maximum range battery saving profile, and some of the quotes they give you for battery time is absolutely ridiculous. Now just on standby, my phone will sit there and say you have about 49 hours of battery life left. If I crank it up to mid, it shows me that I get like 75 hours of battery life, and if I crank it up to maximum, it jumps it up to 175 or 76, some ridiculous number for battery life if I use the maximum power saving mode. Now I'm not saying that these are completely accurate, because chances are they're not, but it should at least be somewhere in the ballpark. So if you find yourself really low on battery, you can throw it in that maximum power saving mode until you can get yourself to a charger, and you should be just fine. Alright, so final opinions on the Galaxy S8 Plus. It's a great phone. There's no denying it. In terms of design, I firmly believe this is the future of smartphone designs. I mean, you're talking incredibly small bezels. Like I said before, 84% screen to body ratio. I seriously hope that other phone manufacturers moving forward start making phones that look like this, because when you set it down next to any other smartphone, it makes that smartphone look so old, and it could be a phone that just came out a few months ago. Now there are kind of quirks here and there, and I'm not the biggest fan of Samsung software, so that was definitely a hit to me. If there was a way that Samsung could even further tone down their software, or find a way to get software updates out quicker than normal. I've had my S8 Plus for almost a month now, David, right? And I think I've gotten 1 or 2 updates on my Pixel XL, and I've received absolutely 0 on my S8 Plus. Now yeah, the updates on my Pixel XL were security patches, but it's still better than nothing. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the software on the phone, but design, performance, camera, everything is here. And another thing I forgot to mention about the build of the phone, it is IP68 water and dust resistant, which is almost necessary now on every company's flagship device. So yeah, it checks off almost all the boxes other than software, but that's me personally. I don't want anyone to get offended by the fact that I don't like the software. It's just my own personal opinion. Another thing I wasn't a big fan of on the phone is the mono speaker on the bottom. It can only get so good whenever you have one speaker, as opposed to maybe using one on the bottom and one on the top where your earpiece sits. So yeah, and then there's the price. $850 if you're buying it unlocked. Now at least if you pre-ordered it, it would come with a Gear VR, which kind of helps alleviate some of that price. And Samsung also likes to tell you that they're including a pair of $100 AKG headphones inside the box. But they're headphones by Samsung and tuned by AKG, so they're not actually made by AKG. So if you can get over $850, I know you'll be happy with the Galaxy S8 Plus. I'm picky in terms of software, that's just how I am. But for the general consumer, or for most consumers out there, the S8 or the S8 Plus are going to be fantastic phones. So if you can get over the price, go for it. The S8 Plus is amazing, and you won't be disappointed. If you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe down below. Your support has been amazing lately, and we really appreciate it. We really can't thank you guys enough. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.